Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Princess and I'm an interpreter here at California State Parks in the North Coast Redwoods District. And I work out of Patrick's Point State Park and mainly the Sume Village. And so for our lives, we've been talking a lot about our culture, me and our other interpreter Maya and Skip. And we talk a lot and we share a lot of information that's been taught to us and that's really important to us. And so today I'm going to kind of talk about abalone. And so this is what an abalone shell looks like. Our other interpreter Maya has done a Facebook Live on abalone shells, but today I'm going to kind of tell about what we use them for. And so this is what the back of it looks like. And so we use abalone in a lot of our regalia, and there's a story behind it. And so our story starts with a woman who comes from up the river, from the village of Witchcoos, or now it's kind of better known as Witchpeck. And so she comes from up there, and she was a very loving, very talented person, and she's very loving and selfless, and she was always looking for the interest of others, looking to see what was better for them rather than herself. And she was married to this man who was also very giving and very kind-hearted and very just really family-oriented, community-oriented, and always wanted to give back to the people and the community. And so they were married, and he started to realize that she was getting all this recognition for a lot of different things and for being so selfless and being so kind-hearted, and he got jealous. He began to feel jealousy over her, and so verbally he would say things, and it was verbal abuse, and say things that were mean or to put her down in different ways. And it eventually got to the point where he started hitting her, and so that was something totally off to Yurok people, all of the people around, Yurok people, Hupa people, Karuk, Wiyot, Talawa people. You don't physically hurt somebody. And so she left him. She took off and she got in a canoe in Othawayach and paddled down to the mouth of Rekwa in Klamath. And she paddled down there and got out of her boat and ran up the beach in the sand. But she could see that her feet were leaving prints in the sand, so she ran on the rocks. And when she ran on the rocks, her feet would bleed because the rocks were really sharp. And as she would run, she would cry. And so when you look in an abalone shell, you can see how it's shiny, and that's the tears that came from her eyes. When they would hit the rocks, they turned into this. And you can see on the back it's red, and that's from the blood that came from her feet. And she ran to this rock, which now a lot of people know it as Redding Rock, but for us we call it Sewana. And that rock is where she ran to, and she prayed and she cried. And when she prayed that the women would always know their self-worth, and that no woman would ever have to go through something like that, like she went through. And so that's kind of the story of why we use abalone and why it's super shiny and super red, for both those reasons, her tears and the blood that came from her feet when she ran. And so we use it as a reminder to women to always love themselves and to know their own worth and to know about them, and a reminder for the men that we don't hit our women, that we take care of each other, and to not abuse power in that way. And so these are abalone pieces that my grandmother has made. And so this I talked about before. It's a flower dance rattle, and you can see the abalone and deer hooves. And I have talked about it in another Facebook Live, so you can look for that if you want to know more about this specific piece. But you can see the shine in the way it glistens and the red on the back, and that's how we use it. And on this necklace, this is a heavier necklace with bigger pieces, and it makes also a really pretty sound when it dances. And then these necklaces, some of these ones have the designs, the cuts that are shaped into some basket designs, and some that are just regular rectangle pieces, and with a lot of really pretty crystal beads. And this one that's just red, and it really brings out the way this shines. And the red that comes on that. And this one is made with amber pieces. These are all made by my grandma Callie. This is something that she's spent her life mastering and making of these pieces of regalia. She makes a lot of regalia that we use in ceremony. This is another piece that's a bib, and you can see the ring on the top and the pieces that are on the bottom. And this ring comes from this piece of the abalone that kind of has a curve to it. And so this and this are the same piece, and you can kind of compare them. And we get it takes a lot to cut these abalone pieces, and it's something that you have to work on, and something that is a very difficult task. It's also very dangerous. And so when you shave abalone or cut them, the dust that comes from that can be poisonous for your lungs and for your health. And so the people that cut these, it takes a lot of prep, a lot of work, and a lot of safety precautions so that it doesn't get in your lungs and affect your health in those ways. And so these are just what I was showing you. They're on a baby blanket because that's how we store them, on these infant blankets, because they're really thin and soft, and it keeps from the abalone either breaking or getting damaged. And so now we can open it up for questions if there are any yet. We'll give it a few minutes. If there are no questions, we can kind of wait and see.
This is a silly question. How many necklaces do you think your grandma's made in her lifetime?
I do not know how many she's made. She's made a lot. These are 3 of many. I have 2 more in my case that are mine. This one is one that she actually made for my high school graduation. And these are my auntie's. She's made a lot for brush dances, and she just recently, I don't think she's finished for it yet, but she's made enough necklaces for a whole round of our flower dance ceremony for all of the women. She's made a lot recently and a lot over the years, and she does a lot of repairing, so she repairs a lot that are either damaged or broken, and she fixes them.
She also teaches people how to make ceremonial necklaces. There's another question here from Erica. Which is your favorite piece?
I don't have a favorite piece because I look at every piece, and every piece has its own beauty to it. This one is 4 strands, and it's a lot thicker than the 3 strands that you see. So that in itself, I think, is really, really beautiful. This one has different shapes to it, and this one is really heavy and sings its own song. And I really love to see this one in ceremony. And this one is one of my favorites because she made it for me. So I don't know that I would have a favorite. And of all of the pieces she's made, they all have a different kind of look to them.
My answer to that is that they're all my favorite. There's a question, or a statement by Deborah. Not a question, but your grandmother has mad skills. That she does.
Yes, she does. And it takes a lot of time and patience to make necklaces, and a really good eye to detail. and she's made about, I want to say 13 of these bibs. And when you wear them up high on your neck, and so she's made about, I want to say 13 of them, but it easily could be more.
Erica says, go grandma. And Tasha Norton says, yay princess.
Hi Tasha, I miss you.
And I don't see any more questions.
Okay, well, we can wrap it up there. Thank you guys for joining us in our Facebook Live today. Again, like I say every week, we are still social distancing and wearing masks, and we appreciate that when you do come into parks, you wear masks and follow the guidelines. And join us next week and with our other interpreters on the weekdays at 3.